A lot of people went into 2020 thinking, this is going to be the best year ever, I'm just totally going to crush it. 2020 is going to be the year where I make shit happen. And then, shit happened. My word for 2020 came into play very frequently last year. But 2021 is going to look a lot different. So let's talk about it. Hi, I am Leslie Crudup Villa-Garcia, and I am a life coach based here in Brisbane, Australia. Now, I posted a video around this time last year in which I talked about my word for 2020.
When I choose a word for a year to represent a year, I don't choose wishing words. I always choose something that will guide my everyday decision-making and keep me on track towards whatever my main goals are for that year.
I went into a lot of detail in that video about how I come up with my word of the year every year, so make sure to watch that one if you want a bit more insight into the way I think about things. For now, here is a list of my words of the year from the last few years. In 2015, my word was resilience. In 2016, it was mindfulness. In 2017, it was minimalism. 2018, my word was diligence. 2019, my word was clean. And of course, in 2020, my word was self-discipline. Again, watch the first video to understand how I came up with each of those words based on what had been happening in my life at the time. 2020 was... Do I even need to finish that sentence? I mean, yeah, my word for 2020 was self-discipline. So, how did I do? I think I did pretty darn well, considering the circumstances. Sure, I had this vision that I was going to totally crush 2020 and kick a bunch of business goals, become super fit, and just kick ass all year. And I did all right in those areas, but I knew that with the pandemic happening, some of the things that would have made me feel more successful in those areas were completely out of my control. And I accepted that. So does that mean I failed in any way? No, not at all. What did happen is that I shifted my priorities, and in doing so, I still had to practice a great deal of self-discipline. And I recognize that I am very lucky to be in a position where I could continue working by moving all of my coaching online. And I was also lucky that my husband, Tony, is a high school teacher, so of course he didn't lose his job. I mean, it wasn't great that he had to be on campus even when there were no students there, but we still did pretty well in 2020. And we have a lot of things to be grateful for. I have a 4-year-old daughter. So normally she would go to daycare 2 days a week and have 2 more days with her grandparents. But not during lockdown. It's because my husband was still working a lot. Most of the time, I was the one at home with our daughter. I couldn't leave her at home while I went to my office. That was my old studio in Windsor because now I'm in Teneriffe. And self-discipline played a major factor in keeping us both above water. I had to be very careful with planning my online appointments with clients and balancing all that out with things like taking my daughter to the park so we could get a little exercise, or keeping the house from looking like it had been robbed. It wasn't easy, but in general, I had a really good time with my daughter. We did a lot of artsy, crafty things, and we tried a bunch of different recipes to make slime, and we made gack, and I came this close to perfecting my recipe for homemade kinetic sand, which was glorious. I don't know what happened to the actual thing that I wrote the recipe on, though. Some of you also may know that I'm really into making gigantic bubbles. So we did a lot of that too. I had to really tune into my daughter's natural rhythms. I had to have the self-discipline to get the rest I needed, to get the nutrition I needed, just to know that I could be fully present with my daughter as much as possible. I had to schedule all of my business development around her and her needs. And it was challenging. Luckily, she's really good at playing by herself, so she's happy to sit and do little art projects while I'm on Zoom, or things like that. And it was very tempting sometimes to just give her the iPad all day and just vegetate. And if that's how you have been getting through this pandemic, I am not judging you. But I understand myself well enough to know that if I weren't doing something, I would have just become really depressed. And I made a video about that, about this question of whether or not it's okay to not be productive during a pandemic. So make sure you check that one out too. Focusing on the word self-discipline really gave me the strength to help keep my family thriving during a year when most people's original plans kind of went out the window. So, what is my word for this year? Those of you who follow me on my socials already know this. My word for 2021 is atomic. It was inspired by the book Atomic Habits. And that book is basically about how the tiny atomic decisions we make every day eventually add up to something much bigger, even if you don't see any immediate results. So whatever goals or intentions I set throughout this year, focusing on the word atomic when I'm faced with the decision to do this thing or that thing will help to keep me on track and will remind me that whatever I decide to do in my day-to-day now could become a habit. So I might as well choose an action that will actually serve me in that moment and in the future. So when you choose your word for 2021, I want you to think of something that will help you make decisions. Choosing a word that represents something you want more of in your life can be helpful, but if your word is going to point you in the right direction when you are at a decision-making crossroads, that is what's going to help you bring what you want more of into your life. Narrowing down to just one word can be really challenging. And then deciding how to implement that word into your life can also be a little tricky sometimes. So if you want to work on that together, let's talk. All right, in the comments, let me know what your word for 2021 is and also why you've chosen that word. Because I'm really curious about all the different thought processes that people go through to choose their word for the year. Because I also choose a word for every month as well. Think really carefully about your word, and then, with each passing month, consider more specific words that you can use to guide you throughout that process of accomplishing the overarching goals that you want to accomplish in 2021. I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching, and if you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and share it with someone else who can benefit from it. Subscribe to my channel and hit the notifications bell so you know exactly when I've uploaded a new video. You can also book a free life coaching session with me through my website, leslievcoaching.com, and we can work together online or right here in my studio. Follow me on my socials to keep up with what I'm doing, and please get in touch with any questions, comments, or video ideas you may have. I'm Leslie V, and I'll see you in the next video.